The time is now to architect a life of excellence. What will we do? Who will we become? We decide today. This is Learn, Do, Become Radio with April and Eric Perry. Let's move onward and upward together.
Welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry, and I'm surrounded by our team at Learn, Do, Become. So excited. So we've got Danielle, Taryn, Jill, and Kristen, and today we're talking about how we're going to be balancing that fun spontaneity that we're all craving during the holiday season with having some kind of planning that we do, because we've been talking a lot about productivity and planning. But it's not just because we want everyone making lists and checking them off and being super productive. It's because we want to be able to have that freedom and that peace and that ability to really enjoy the meaning of the holidays. So, everyone want to say hi? Like, hello. Hi. It's kind of a girls' slumber party. Eric's in the other room. So, we're going to hopefully just provide a few ideas that will get you thinking as you're moving towards your ideal holiday. Also, we have our Learn, Do, Become Holiday Workshop that you can participate in totally free. Simple video series, some templates, some fun bonuses if you go to LearnDoBecome.com/holiday. So make sure you go there, check that out, share it with your friends, because our goal is for everyone to really enjoy the holidays and be able to look back on these awesome memories, but not have anything slip through the cracks in the process, which sounds kind of like a dream, right? Yeah. But it's totally possible. Okay, so we've just outlined just 3 ideas, and then the team's going to be sharing their perspectives, because all of us are doing this in our own homes and families, and we want you to be able to do the same. So idea number 1 on how we're going to balance this spontaneity with the planning is that we actually want to have a conversation with our families to find out what's important to them. Now, in David Allen's natural planning model, he has these 5 phases, and the first 2 we're kind of combining and putting them together, but talking about your purpose and principles and the outcome vision, where you actually can sit down with your family, or you can have an informal conversation. And I would love to hear from our team members if you guys do this formally, or if it's kind of an informal thing while you're driving in the car, like, hey, what do you guys want to do this season? But how do you guys structure it so that you can really know what matters to your family?
Ooh, we do something that is turning into a tradition, but my husband and I actually turn it into a date night.
Awesome.
So early November, we have a little template that we've used year after year, and we will hit all the main points of things we want to see in the season. Okay. But it's fun because it's an actual date. So we turn it into there's a treat for us, and it's enjoyable, and we look forward to it, and then we plan ahead and get really excited.
So what types of things are on your template?
So we talk about all the things. We talk about the traditions we want to have in place. We talk about concerts we want to go to.
So maybe you'll look at a calendar of events, local activities, totally. Or things like that?
Yep, okay. Lots of calendar, lots of gifts for family. We don't necessarily plan everything, but there's a place for everything. So we decide, okay, we're going to do our online shopping this weekend, or we're going to get all the things in the works for if we're going to do Christmas cards. We're going to get those all in place by this time. And it's just fun because he's on board, so I get his opinion. And then whatever we're going to take to our family, we can decide and then pull that out for our next family night.
I love that. And is this date night at home with a treat? Okay, so it's like an at-home date night where you're planning.
Oh, yeah. Play some Christmas music, have some seasonal thing. It's fun.
Have a treat. Okay, yeah, I love it.
So this last year for us was kind of unique. My husband was just finishing up nursing school. We were super busy, and we also had some extra family close by that we really wanted to make sure we incorporated their ideas as well as our ideas. And so this last year, the conversation, it wasn't necessarily all together, but I really wanted to make sure our Christmas wasn't overwhelming. So I went one-on-one with each person, and I said, okay, if you could have just one thing you wanted to make sure happened this holiday season, what would that be? And so, for my husband, he wanted to make sure we had unifying the family, we had traditions. My kids were all about the presents, so they wanted to make sure we have Christmas morning with the presents. I had one child who mentioned sledding, which for me is kind of a big deal. It's a little bit harder for me to do, but because he wanted it and because that was his one thing, we made sure it happened. And then I had one child who said, Christmas treats. I really want Christmas treats. And so that was really important for him. And what I realized in that process was we had a couple of traditions that had been really near and dear to my heart, but were too much for last Christmas.
So it didn't happen. But
It didn't.
you were okay with that
because it wasn't my
did...
number one, and
Okay,
it wasn't
okay.
anybody else's number one. And so, you know, we didn't do gingerbread houses last year. We
Yeah.
didn't go to our local Festival of Trees
Yeah.
celebration like we normally do. And yes, that's something we may add in, you know, in future holiday seasons. But for this one where we really needed to focus and simplify, it's just not what was chosen.
Well, and I want to pause here and really emphasize how powerful that is, what you just said, because so many of us were thinking, well, no, I can't go a year without this. Oh, I can't go a year without that. And so we just fill it in and pack it in. But then all of us know the results of that. I mean, you're just going to end up either cranky or sick or angry or something. So that was so wise that you guys were able to say, hey, this year, because of the schooling or whatever's happening, there's just a few things that are going to go undone. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up on a dream and I'm now, you know, destroying my celebration. It's that you were actually just making room for something that was a higher priority.
Exactly.
That's smart.
And because we had a few extra people, my parents were in town and were going to be spending the holidays with us, I needed to ask their priorities too. And we had, you know, extra people, extra priorities.
Yeah.
You know, for my mom, she really wanted to make sure we did the nativity scene because that was something that's very important to her. It's a tradition for her growing up. And for my dad, he really wanted us to have the Christmas narrative and to have service as a family, which for me was, you know, different. You know,
Yeah.
my kids are really young, so we haven't done a lot of service yet.
Yeah.
But the advantage also to having extra people was we had extra help,
Yeah.
you know, with making those things happen.
That's awesome. So, okay,
Yeah.
Jill, yeah.
So with us, it's kind of been a little bit interesting because our traditions have changed somewhat over the years. And originally, I was kind of having a hard time with that. But now that we have changed our traditions a little bit, like it has been so life-giving. And I saw this quote, and it was basically said that the best gift that you can give to your loved ones through the holiday season is your own joy and happiness. And because we made a few changes in our traditions, like it has helped with that tremendously. With our families, they were both kind of vying for our immediate families, like time and attention, like on Christmas Day. And so Christmas ended up being like a stressful occasion. And we were just like trying to figure out how to make everybody happy. And it really was stealing the joy. And so we ended up changing things up a little bit. And now we have a new tradition where we invite any of our extended family over to our home instead of traveling, you know, hours and hours on Christmas Day. And my kids absolutely love it. My husband and I love it. We have just the most joy-filled day. We wake up, we celebrate, you know, and then all of our family each chooses their like favorite food for our meal. So we have the most interesting, you know, like Christmas Day meal. Like last year we had like jalapeno poppers was one favorite, mashed potatoes, steak, macaroni and cheese, you know, just like all these like random foods, but it was like the best thing ever. And our kids just love it. We stay in our pajamas. We just have so much fun. But I think that just being flexible with kind of letting go the way that things used to be and kind of starting some new things has really helped as far as, you know, just understanding that you can have tradition but yet flexibility. And of course we still have some of our staples like, you know, making Chex Mix the day after Thanksgiving and putting up the Christmas tree and decorating and just some, you know, things that we have done as a family that, I mean, are definitely still there. For me, my one thing every year has been to create a Christmas newsletter. I am not great with scrapbooking or like documenting our family photos. I am actually getting better this year, but we'll see if that kind of continues. But for me, that has been like my the one thing that I have done since we've been married. Every year I do this newsletter, just an update like what all the kids are doing, you know, what different things that we have done each year. And so that is really very endearing to me and my like one thing. But anyway, it's just, so our traditions have changed. So I just want to say like, you know, just because maybe you need to tweak things a little bit, and just like Kristen was sharing, you know, hers was a little bit different. Like different isn't bad. So I just want you to know, like, if you do need to make those little changes or whatnot, like it can be a beautiful thing moving forward.
I love that. Now, Taryn, I know that you and your husband go back and forth to different families. So do you talk with them about what they want you guys to plan? Do you bring things with you when you go travel? How does that
So
typically
my
work?
husband's family and mine, we live fairly close to both sides.
Okay.
And so they will set their day and their time.
Okay.
And then we show up with our food assignment.
Okay.
And we enjoy the evening. And it really is kind of nice to be able to go and enjoy. And then to just have that conversation between us to figure out what we want to do as a couple.
Yeah.
So we really enjoy music, and so we look for opportunities to listen to concerts and to go to the Messiah sing-in.
Yeah.
And we don't have a sit-down formal, this is what we're going to do. But we look at the calendar and we say, this is non-negotiable. We really want to go to that.
Yeah.
And anything else we might let slide under the rug just a little bit because we're social, but we also like to stay home and just enjoy each other's company. And so being able to prioritize what we really want to do and what traditions we want to include from our families versus create our own as a couple has been really a neat experience.
I love that. Okay, so I mean, it's still fun hearing everyone's stories, and everyone's experience is different. Everyone has families that have different preferences, or you have different preferences. I mean, my ideal holiday really is having some time to do some activities, some service, some events. But I love having music and having the family at home and having just quiet time to be thinking and reading and just enjoying. Eric and I love that, so we try to stay home as much as we can, at least, during the holidays time. But, okay, so, yeah.
Does your family have like a meeting where you sit down together and talk about it?
So, yes. So, actually, most years, we actually sit down with our children and we ask them, okay, what's your favorite thing, decorations-wise? What activities do you want to do? We talk about friends, who you want to buy gifts for. We have a little planning meeting where we do a brainstorm, and we'll talk about that in the holiday workshop. I'll show you even some pictures that we took of the brainstorm, back when the kids were little. One of the kids will be the scribe. We'll put all that together. But a couple of years ago, I had a little incident on my rollerblades without a helmet, and I had a concussion. So I was laying in bed for the entire holiday season. So that year, we didn't have a planning session. We just kind of did what we could. And it was super simple. And that's when Eric did our great big pile of mirth that I haven't told you guys about, and I won't go into detail on this podcast. But essentially, he was in charge of all the gifts for the children because I physically couldn't sit up and wrap or do anything. So I had purchased wrapping paper and tape, and we'd gone to Costco together and kind of picked out a few things, but we were mainly giving them a trip that our family was taking. So it wasn't, stuff we had to wrap. We didn't have a lot of presents. But Eric, it was evening, it was Christmas Eve, and I'm laying on the couch unable to do anything, and I'm watching him. And he wasn't wrapping anything. And it was 9 o'clock at night. And I started getting a little nervous. We're getting right towards the end of it. Anyway, what ended up happening is he said, I'm not going to wrap any presents. If they want to wrap them, they can do it. The paper and the tape is right here. So they can wrap the gifts in the morning if they want. But I'm just going to leave it here in the corner. And we're going to call it the great big pile of mirth. And he just threw everything under the tree. He even went into their bedrooms and pulled out everything he bought for them during the year and put that under the tree as well. So our 15-year-old daughter was so mad. She's like, Dad, I was trying to sleep and you're in my room with a flashlight under my bed looking for my basketball shoes because he bought them for her. So, I mean, for the kids, I don't know. I mean, our family cracks up. He printed out a sign that said the great big pile of holiday mirth. And then the children would pick up a gift and he'd tell them if it was theirs or not. So, I mean, I was honestly laying there mortified because I'm like, what are you doing to our traditions? And my head hurt so bad I couldn't sit up. But you know what? It was totally fine. And now we're not going to do that every year because I like having the wrapping and I like having it kind of special for the kids. But you know what? It was just the kids laugh about that. Oh, remember Dad and the great big pile of holiday mirth? And he was the mirth administrator, and that's what he called himself. Anyway, it was the most hilarious Christmas morning we'd ever had. Anyway, so yes, we figured out. I like to plan and organize, but sometimes you can't. So let's just talk about, though, our step number 2, or our idea number 2, how we actually now plan the must-dos. Because, and we say must-dos where, if something happens like a concussion or an accident or something that's I just can't do it. There really aren't that many must-dos. I mean, really, we did hardly any that year. But when you are putting together your list and each child has their one thing, or you and your spouse or your family members this is the activity that matters the most to us, How do you guys make sure the must-dos don't get forgotten? And what do you do to kind of take the stress out of it so that you can make sure, you know, those cards get mailed or that gift gets purchased or the teacher gift gets delivered before school's out or whatever? What do you guys do? Yeah, Taryn, want to start?
Yeah, so I kind of live by my calendar.
Okay.
It's really helpful to me. And so, like I mentioned earlier, my husband and I will sit down and put on the calendar, these are the family dates, and these are the things that we want to do, and this is when we want things done. And it's so much easier to see exactly what's there.
Yeah.
And what's going to stay there versus this is maybe if we feel like it.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so that's really helpful to me.
So having a very simple calendar
Yes.
that feels open but has those reminders clear, then you just know, hey, as long as I'm looking at my calendar, these
Yep.
things are going to get done. And you're looking at your calendar every day.
Yes.
Just because it's part of your routine.
Yep.
So super simple. I love that.
Yes, and I would totally agree with Taryn. It is all about the calendar, but simplifying what you put on the calendar. So
Yeah.
our must-dos are our family Christmases with our extended family. So as soon as we can get those scheduled, the better. So usually our families kind of start talking about that in the month of October, you know, like, okay, what dates are going to work with everybody? Boom, that goes on the calendar, and, you know, that is our must-do. Everything else gets, you know, scheduled around that. The other thing that I kind of mentioned earlier was our Christmas cards. So we have kind of a December 1st goal for our Christmas cards, because if I wait any later than that, there's too many other things, like with school, you know, finishing up.
Then
and
we're
just
like,
little...
Valentine's Day cards. We could
yeah. So that's just kind of our goal, you know, for that. So we've got our family pictures coming up this weekend. So, you know, we'll kind of get those, and I can, you know, pull together our little newsletter or, you know, whatnot to go with that. And so that's kind of our deadline for that. And then the third thing that we have just started doing, gosh, I'm trying to think how many years we've done this now. I want to say 5 years ago we started this tradition. Larry and I, and it kind of goes off of what Danielle was saying, kind of with her date night. So years ago, I was really letting Christmas kind of stress me out, to be completely honest. And so Larry was just like, you know what? We just need to have a little break and refocus and just make sure that, you know, we're on the same page and whatnot. So it's not really a planning date, because we kind of do that, you know, just at home ahead of time, but we now schedule an overnight. So we'll usually choose like a Friday night, get a babysitter for the kids, and we drive to a town that we do a lot of shopping.
Is this
and it's
November?
It's actually more like the first weekend in December.
Okay.
My two oldest ones have just gotten into high school, and so their homecoming now is like it's either the first or the second weekend in December, so we kind of just, you know, alternate around that. So I'm like, oh, homecoming now, like Christmas, oh my gosh, one more thing to, you know, like throw in there. But so we just kind of do it either one of those weekends that work out, and it's a shopping day. So we go and we have like a date night together Friday night. We stay at the hotel, and we have a completely empty, like I have a Ford Expedition. It is completely emptied out, and we go, and everything that I'm not doing online shopping, we shop for every single person.
Or
yes,
family.
everything is finished.
So smart.
Finished off on that day together, and we come home and we wrap that same
Are you
day.
serious?
Yeah. So
Okay.
everything just like
that.
gets done, and I cannot even tell you like how like refreshing or whatnot that is. And so, you know,
smart.
like for all of our kids and whatnot, you know, they do an exchange with each other, but you know, all the gifts that, you know, we give our kids, like we wrap them and they all go underneath the tree.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on your own traditions, you know, like what you do.
Yeah.
With that, you know, you can kind of just, you know, figure out like if you need to hide some or, you know, just, you know, whatever you need to do. But that's just something new that we have started, and it has really been life-giving for us.
And so your husband will help you wrap.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
Had to teach him a
great.
few tricks, you know, here and there, but he does a great job, honestly.
Well,
Yeah.
and you can even, I mean, I think that's awesome. We have one child every year who gets to be my assistant wrapper because they love wrapping. So I'll have all the gifts in my room, and they get to come in with me, and we shut the door and lock it. And then they get to see what the other kids are getting for Christmas. Because my kids are older now, so it works out. But they help wrap everything and put the names on it and everything. So then it's like me one-on-one. Every year we take turns. So that, like, can I be your special helper this year? So anyway, that
That's
works too.
super
If
fun.
someone, because my husband, as you can tell from my previous story, is like, he doesn't understand the necessity of wrapping paper. So, but I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Kristen or Danielle? Yeah, what do you think, Kristen?
So I also use the calendar, but for my projects, things like gift wrapping and
Sledding arrangements,
whatever it may be. For those, I really rely on my project templates. Basically, one year I sat down and I thought, okay, this is stressing me out. I don't want to recreate this project year after year because we're doing the same traditions,
Yeah.
And so I sat down and I outlined, okay, so for this project, what are all the little next actions that I need to take to make sure that this actually happens? And then I gave each of them a date. And in my system, it's digital, and so I have the advantage of having dates that I can adjust based on when I put it in.
Awesome.
So, it
and
says,
then they'll all just set?
Yes, it
so
automatically
awesome.
sets. So,
And what are you using for that? By PS?
I use 2 apps. My main app for my projects and my tasks is OmniFocus.
Okay.
So it's an Apple device app, and then I keep my project templates in Editorial.
Okay.
And that way I don't have to be looking at them all the time.
Nice.
But just when I'm ready to face Christmas and all that planning, then I can take that project and pull it into OmniFocus, and then it's in my system, and it's all ready to go, and it auto populates the dates, so I can say 2 weeks before Christmas, I want to have all of the Christmas gifts purchased.
Nice. Okay.
The day before Christmas, I want to have them all wrapped.
Yes, I can see how that saves a ton of time.
It does.
And you already know that the system works for you, so you can just...
And then it's obviously flexible. So,
Yeah.
So there's some things that are customized from year to year. So, if I need to get this specific gift and this gift needs to be assembled, then I can just add that task in. Once it's in OmniFocus, I can modify it and delete tasks, add tasks as needed.
Love it. Yay! Wonderful.
Oh, I love that, Kristen. And I do something similar with... April taught me a long time ago the using the mini projects for the big season. And I've done paper and I've done digital, but one of my favorite things about that is at the end of a season, my husband and I will go through and talk about what was successful, what we loved, what was something we want to do again, and then things that we don't want to do again. And I actually will just keep this all noted in Evernote. And so I don't use the OmniFocus, I'll just keep it all in one Evernote. But then it's like a template that I can recreate for the next year. But at the very top, I'll have some bullet points of, 2017, these were fantastic highlights of the year. 2016, these are things that were, just amazing. These are things we wouldn't do again. And then so when starting the new year planning, I have already a list of helps because a whole year has gone by. I don't remember what's happened. And anyways, as I start these little mini projects and breaking things down, a lot of times I can see, one of my notes from last year was check in to see if I want to help with the class party. Because some years I really want to help. I really like it. And then some years I just don't want to. Some years I will put, we did maybe a Halloween gingerbread house. We did it at Halloween time.
Oh, okay.
And so we can do the same traditions, but we can space them out.
That's so fun.
Because of
you
these
could do
notes.
a New Year's gingerbread house. Why did I never think of that just now? Those things can freeze that you can buy.
Gingerbread houses are awesome for New Year's Eve because you need something to fill the time.
Yes.
As you're staying up late.
Oh my goodness. I'm having light bulb moments. Well, because it's almost like us thinking, oh, you have to eat breakfast food for breakfast and you have to eat dinner food for dinner. Not true. You could switch it. Our son had chili for breakfast the other morning. Totally fine. What's the problem? And sometimes we think, or even same thing with cards. If you're sending out cards, it's totally fine. I get all kinds of cards trailing in after the new year or whatever, and I'm not thinking, wow, who wasn't on their game getting them mailed, right? And so I think sometimes we put these artificial deadlines on ourselves, or we think everything just has to be a certain way. I mean, one year we even did all of our gift opening as a family 2 days before Christmas. So the day before Christmas, we went back and returned anything, so we didn't have to, hit those long return lines. Anyway, it just worked out where we were able to just do it early. I think it was because Christmas on a Sunday and we had church meetings and we're we wanted to be able to celebrate and do it all on Saturday. So we did Christmas on Saturday. I mean, who says it has to be done on that certain day? And we almost felt like we had this little secret because, you know, Saturday we're out like returning things and doing shopping and everyone else is getting ready for Christmas Eve and we're like, hey, we're already done, you know? So I think there's other ways you can think about it that gives yourself some room, which leads us into number 3, where we're talking about how you create as much white space as possible. Because I don't know what it is with us as humans, but we get into this culture of holiday craziness where you're not only trying to do all the things that you see on Pinterest or all the activities and all the service and all the stuff and the meals and the treats and everything that you want. Plus your neighbors are so kind and coming over and bringing you stuff. So you've got, you know, everyone's got piles of things that come in. But then you also need to do laundry and you also need to feed your family and you also need to work and you also need to go to school or whatever else you're doing. And so somehow we think that like our already full lives are just not going to be full during the holidays. Like we have all this room. So what do you do in your homes to create that space so you don't feel like you're getting up in the morning and just putting on your tennis shoes and running all day until you're exhausted? Because that's what I did do in the past, I will say. So what do you guys do? Yeah, Danielle, you want to start?
Yeah, I love this because we do a lot of Christmas books is one of my favorite traditions with our kids, just picture books, lots and lots of Christmas picture books. So I actually realized that I actually put that on the calendar. Like I would block out a line across 3 of the dates and I would just put like Christmas. I made it sound magical so that I wanted to like not skip it. Christmas lights or around the Christmas tree and Christmas books. So it's almost like scheduling white space, which isn't
I love that.
Very exciting. But when it comes down to it and you have that space, oh, it feels so good. And then you can sit by and do the thing that matters most, whatever it is that you want to. But scheduling white space is not, don't assume that's a bad thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you're identifying what are the activities that feel like the white space to me.
What's the thing?
And then you just put that in. Yeah. We had some friends who did a sing-along around the tree, and then they did a sleep-in, where it was like a camp-out around the tree. So one night during the month, they'd all have a camp-out, you know, with the lights and stuff like that. I'm like, how cute. So they scheduled that. Now, that doesn't sound like white space to me, to be honest, having a camp-out with my kids. But... do I sound horrible?
No, but I know, but keeping like at least depending on what's good for your family. Like for us, if we can see that we have 2 big weekend things coming on, then that means that whole upcoming week.
Yeah,
I'm not investing like a bunch of energy to go.
Schedule parties or events.
Let's schedule something like that's at home, and then even put like we're gonna watch this Christmas movie, or we're gonna be
movies. Yes, having the movie time scheduled, quiet time, reading. Yeah. Anyone else have ideas? Yeah, Kristen.
So this last year, actually, we had to put a real big focus on having the white space. And for me, where we end up having so many things on our calendar just as is, it was really important for us to actually avoid putting as much as we could on the calendar. And that was actually saying a no to a lot of things. And going back to that, you know, that step 1, that first idea of saying, okay, these were our essentials. If this wasn't on our list of essentials, we actually need to say no this year.
Yeah.
And, you know, declining, you know,
and that's hard to do.
The neighborhood party or the, you know, giving gifts to the neighbors. It was just not something that was on our priorities.
Yeah.
And so taking that and reviewing and drawing yourself back to what those priorities were, and then having that reflect on your calendar and in your projects. Like for me, you know, using my project templates, it was really important to get as much of that done early as I could, because I knew as we got closer and closer, things were just naturally going to get busier and progress. And so for me, it was really important to actually set my project deadlines much earlier.
And then I think having that renegotiation where if it does start getting closer and you start feeling the pressure, instead of just kicking it into high gear, you can stop and say, all right, we're going to say no to a few more things now.
Exactly.
And we're going to stop. I mean, Eric and I sent Christmas cards for the first, 10, 12 years of our marriage. And then we had several years that were just extremely overwhelming. And he'd been the guy doing the cards, and he kind of stopped. And I couldn't quite take it on. I didn't have the bandwidth. So we haven't sent cards. I think it's been like 6-7 years. I think we might do it this year because our daughter's like, Mom, can we please do a card this year? She really likes it. But for years, we just haven't. And, you know, I did feel a little guilty as cards were coming in. I'm like, I'm not sending anyone anything, you know, but I just had to realize it's either I sleep or I send cards. I mean, that's what it came down to for us. And so, you know.
Well, and what was beautiful about this experience was I discovered some of the things that I was not originally planning on having happen just happened because we had that white space. You know, we weren't planning on doing gingerbread houses as a family, but because we had this open space, my grandma had family come over to her house, and, you know, all my aunts and uncles and my cousins, and so we were all gathering there just for Christmas and to celebrate. And when we were there, one of my cousins went out to a gas station and bought a gingerbread house kit and did gingerbread houses with my kids just because she wanted to. And I was like, I wasn't planning on that happening, but it happened for them because we had that open space, because we were able to say, oh, we have this open space, we can go to my grandma's house, we can spend time with family.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
great. And I definitely think that, you know, when you're looking at this and, you know, trying to make sure that you have the white space, like just taking that time to reflect is huge. So, you know, looking back at your past and, you know, just kind of, you know, asking yourself the question, you know, like, what activities do I want to absolutely make sure that we have room for in our schedule? And, you know, like we just said, you know, like making sure that those are on the schedule. And then after that, just, you know, looking at the feeling of the season, you know, like I think Christmas is so much like a feeling, that peace, that joy, that thankfulness, you know, there's such a feeling about it. And I think that if we don't protect ourselves and be sure that we set those limits to make sure that we have that space, you know, we're just asking for that stress and that overwhelm. And when you just stop and reflect and just think, how do I want to make sure that the feelings are there, not only for me, but for my family as well? You know, it really comes down to setting some limits. And sometimes setting those limits, like we said, I mean, it can be really hard, you know, it's, you know, letting go of maybe some of those old traditions, you know, kind of like I mentioned before, like I had to disappoint some of my extended family when we made that choice for our family. We're not going to travel on Christmas Day. Like we just can't do it anymore. Like, but it was, again, it was the most life-giving decision, even though it was very difficult to communicate that and to, you know, enforce that, but it truly was life-giving. And you know, I just want to make sure that, you know, you don't want to look back on Christmas with regrets, you know. Yeah. That's just the most important thing, is just to, you know, protect, you know, that feeling for your entire family.
Well, and I love that. Like in the case of our gingerbread houses, if I had decided to take that project on top of everything, it would have been stressed. It would have been overwhelming. It would have been so many things that the feeling is, you know, not good. But in this case, because we had this open space and it just happened, the feeling was gratitude and love and connection.
That's awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
Really awesome.
So yeah, Tara, anything you want to add on making
Yeah,
the
so
space?
I love this conversation about looking back and looking forward. By looking back, we learn what we want to do moving forward.
Yeah.
And then we can take those project templates and decide what needs to be done when. And because it's scheduled and it's a small task, we can find that space in our calendar. We can find that time to make the gifts for the neighbors, or to go caroling, or to make a phone call, because you're not stressed out. Mm-hmm. You know what you want because you've looked back, and you know how to fit it in because you're looking forward.
I love that. And what I love is all these ladies that I get to work with, I'm so grateful, is that because all of us really do, we do care about being organized and being responsible. We can trust each other and we can work really well together. We're recording this in October. We're trying to get ahead of the game. So we're totally working on getting ahead of things, because we also respect each other's need to be able to be in the moment, and we with our families. And we work really hard at LearnDoBecome to create a culture where we're not all stressed out and frazzled and going crazy, because no one wants to work in an environment where you feel like you're always behind and you're always late and you're always in a rush. We want to feel like, hey, we're in advance, we've got things prepared and ready, and that feels so much better at the end of the day. And as Jill was talking about her, you know, being able to reflect and not have regrets, I was just thinking, yeah, like the past 7 years, I mean, my mom passed away last year, but every year my kids and I would go to my parents' house. We'd put up a little tree in my mom's room. My dad would buy a little tree and he'd wait for us to come on a Thursday to decorate it. And we'd decorate the tree and we'd have my mom's room all decorated. So I have memories from all these years of us going and celebrating with my parents. And now that my mom has passed away and we've moved away from my dad, I don't have that opportunity. I have zero regrets because every year we were there and making candy cane airplanes and celebrating and being with them. So those, like, it's awesome to look back and not have that. And Eric and I actually have been working all year preparing for this Christmas. Usually the end of the year is when the whole world wants to get organized, which is awesome. And so we help people create a system so that they can manage all that stuff, which I love. But all year we've been working on this on-demand webinar, which is now ready for you. So you can go to LearnDoBecome.com/step. And we've taught more than 500 classes. We have a recording of one of our best ones, but you can go through that on your own time.
Well, and what I love about it too is having the webinar available on demand. It works so much better with, you can do it at your own time in your own schedule during this busy holiday season.
Yes, totally. And I love that. So you can go check out our webinar and our holiday guide, which I'm very excited about. Now, Kristen and Jill are working on some fun bonuses where Kristen's helping us see how she structures her budget, which is obviously something we all need to think about, because even if you have tons of money, you don't want to just blow money, because you could spend money so easily around the holiday time. We want to be careful with the money that's under stewardship. So being able to budget, being able to figure out, hey, how can I simplify? How can I make this work? Or if something's really important to me this year, how can I put more of the budget towards that? Kristen's going to show us how she does that. Jill has an awesome gift spreadsheet that she showed us yesterday. I was just like jaw-dropping as I was looking at it because it was amazing. And she was showing us how she structures, hey, here's how I know who I need to get gifts for and that. So we'll have those ready in our holiday special workshop, that if you can share it with your friends, you can get these special bonuses. So exciting for that. Any final words of encouragement that you guys would offer to our community? Because I know there's probably someone who's thinking, oh, now I have to start thinking about all the stuff I need to do, which really we want it to feel exciting and comforting. But anything else you guys would have to say? You could do it.
I don't know. I feel kind of giddy, I have to be honest. Like, because we're doing this Learn to Become retreat, and it's just so great being around just like wonderful people sharing wonderful ideas. It's just, Learn to Become is just a great place to be, and we're just super excited that you are here with us today on this podcast. And I just think that overall, it's, again, just going back to simplification, just taking, that 5, 10, 30 minutes, whatever it is, and just reflecting, like what is most important to you. That's going to be a different answer for every person. And it doesn't matter what that looks like as long as you're doing what is most important to you and your family. So don't let yourself, get into that trap of comparisons or anything like that. Just focus on what's most important to you and your family. And I think you'll find that you will have an incredible holiday season.
Yay! Love this. Thank you so much, everybody. I've been so grateful. Seriously, I need to call Eric and have him come in and take a little picture of us all sitting around the microphone. This is awesome. So come visit us at LearnDoBecome.com/holiday if you want to download the holiday workshop, or go to LearnDoBecome.com/step to sign up for our workshop step, what do we call it? How to finally stop drowning in piles webinar, online training. We're so thrilled that you're here with us. And as we've been brainstorming where Learn to Become is going, I'm so excited. Like, I've been waking up in the morning excited because we're learning how to work really well as a team, and to be able to create a place where our community can come and contribute and get to know each other and learn from each other. And there's so much goodness that's out there. And our goal is to help find those good things and help present it to you in a very simple and actionable way, so that your life will continue to get better and better and better. We were practicing our like tagline, or what we call it, our elevator description yesterday. People ask, like, what do you do at Learn to Become? Do you remember what we decided? Do we have it written down?
Oh, I have it.
Okay, Kristen has it, because I was so excited. I thought we could just close with that.
Yes, it's fantastic, honestly.
Because at first we were talking about it, like, people say, what do you do at Learn to Become? And Jill, what were you saying? Let's go to lunch.
Yes, there's just so much, depth behind everything that we do. You can't just simply say like, oh, we help people organize. And I'm like, oh, no. It's so much more than that, So
okay,
anyway,
Kristen,
this is what we came up with.
So we help people who are drowning in the details of life to develop a system and offer the support of a community so they can do what matters most, both personally and professionally.
Yay! And we may evolve that. It may evolve over time, but I love that because really that's what we want, is doing what matters most. That's why we're recording this, because at the end of the day, we don't care if you have garland on your staircase or not, and we don't care if you've gotten a card out or not. I mean, it doesn't really affect us, right? But we do care that you're excited about your life, that you're enjoying your family, that you're getting the things done you need to get done. Just burning a to-do list and just saying, oh, just enjoy the season, that's never worked for me, because there's always something that has to get done. But we just believe that if we can help you take care of those logistics, those details of life, create a system that's effortless, that just takes the stress off, then you're smart and you're going to come up with ways to use your time well. It's just that sometimes we just get weighed down by all those details. And so thank you for being with us. We're here to serve you. If you have any feedback, you can just send it to contact@LearnDoBecome.com. Oh wait, no, that goes to me. Email. Maybe I will set up contact to go through. Okay, email @LearnDoBecome.com if you have any questions, suggestions. We're here to help. Maybe edit that part. Okay, we're good. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.